Um, Good evening, everybody. I thought tonight's fights were really good, and I think that the fight that really impressed me was the Barnawi fight with Premise. I think they gave it their all. They went back and forth, and for a minute there, I thought Barnawi was going to stop him. Premise dug deep, but it was just one of those fights that I think that both those guys will never forget. And it was a great night of fights overall. And at this point, we'll just open up for questions if anybody has any.
Scott, congratulations on a beautiful night of fights. Talk a little bit about the arena. It was electric. How did you experience it?
It really was something to forget. I mean, we've had a lot of fights in Bellator, a lot of fights in Strikeforce, a lot of great events. Did Madison Square Garden. We did fights in Japan. We did fights in Ireland, and we did fights all over the world. And this was something that was really special. I'll never forget this night. I think the French fans came in force, and Barnaby had a very big play in that, I think. But it was really exciting, and they were very passionate, and I think all the fighters really appreciate that.
So the main event, want to focus a little bit more on Gegard Mousasi. It's the first time in his career that he lost twice. Where do you go with Gegard from here, Scott?
That's really up to him. I mean, Gegard, if he decides to retire or fight, that's really his call. We do have a contract with him, and we'll honor it. But that's a decision that only he can answer. I mean, he's had a great career, and it's something that he'll have to talk to his manager and his trainer, his brother, and figure it out.
So, were you impressed by Fabian? I mean, beating two legends in a row, three almost. How soon do you think that fight with Johnny Eblen can happen? And was there a scuffle?
Yeah, there was a little scuffle, and the date is set for September 23rd. So the date is set. It's going to be in Ireland for the fight. And when I think about Edwards, he's a guy that I was just talking to David Green about this. He's getting better and better and better. He's improving every time. And that's why I think that, he's in a great shot now to line himself up for the title, which he got. Him and Eblen is going to be very interesting. Edwards is super fast. He's hard to hit. And he dominated the fight tonight. So he's going to be a great challenge for, I think, Johnny. And we'll see what happens in Ireland.
Two short questions from my side before I let you go, Scott. And you already spoke a little bit about Barnaby. I wanted to move on to Costello Fastines, Douglas Lima. Of course, your former champion moved up to middleweight, and he won against a ranked opponent. What did you make of Douglas Lima's performance?
Yeah, Douglas Lima, I thought looked good. I think he was still a little careful. I wish he would have opened it up a little bit more, but I think he did great. He did everything he had to do. And, the gentleman he's fighting has very long limbs, very tall, a great kickboxer from a great gym in Holland. And I think he did what he had to do. And his coach came in to me and said, hey, I thought my guy won. And I said, look, it's one thing about taking someone down, but you got to do damage too, right? So you have to continue to advance your position if you're going to take someone down. By taking someone down doesn't mean you're actually doing damage. So I think Douglas clearly did more damage in the fight, and I just think he deserved the win.
Last question for me, Scott. I can talk to you all day, but I want to talk about Denise of Miss Dynamite Kielholz in the only female fight of the night. The queen from Amsterdam, she came back after losing 3 straight. What did you make of her performance?
Yeah, I thought she did good. I thought that was a good fight, and I look forward to getting her back into the cage as soon as possible. She's had a great kickboxing career. She's traditionally more of a kickboxer, and had more fights in kickboxing, I think, than MMA. But she's done a lot of good work for us. And I think this fight could hopefully pivot and start turning her back towards getting the title shot or getting back into title contention. So, I talked to my guys and we said, hey, look, let's try to get her back and get her busy as soon as possible. Possible.
Hi, Scott, Alexandre for La Sueur. Let's talk a little bit about Mansour Barnawi. What do you think should be next for him?
Listen, the guy is super talented, and it didn't work out for him tonight. And that was just an issue of a couple, I think, getting caught with the right hand early on. I think he was dazed and did some damage on him. But he almost stopped Premise in the 3rd round or 4th round. I think that he was right there in the fight all the way to the end. And I think he's going to want to rest right now. So we're going to let him rest. We have a very good division in 155. And who knows, maybe he could revisit the tournament as an alternate if, say, somebody gets hurt. That's one of the things we're thinking about.
And what about the French MMA in general? Did you feel welcome in France for this event?
Oh yeah, definitely. The French fans have spoken. I mean, look at the crowd; they're very passionate. They're very loud. It was a pleasure to be here.
Hey Scott, the Douglas Lima we saw tonight obviously was his best performance in a few fights. You just look at the results. Do you think the Lima we saw tonight is a title contender at 185?
You know what? I think he's definitely something to talk about. But this is a very, very good division, and I think that he might want a couple more fights to acclimate his weight, and then we could talk about that. But I don't think his next fight's going to be, obviously, because the 185 is going to be with Johnny and Edwards. So, maybe it's a couple more down the road. But I think he needs a couple more before he starts talking about that.
Yeah. In an undercard fight, Saul Rogers and Davey Galone. It was initially a submission win for Rogers. It was quickly overturned to no contest, questionable stoppage. I know that's not you guys, that's the commission, but can you kind of speak to why that happened?
You mean why
why it was
call?
overturned?
I think when you looked at his head was stuck, and I don't think the referee or even us watching it on TV, we couldn't see what if he was really out or not. I think that the referee made the call and then he stopped, but he was clearly not submitted. So if he was stuck in a position, the referee couldn't see it. I think for fighter safety, he made the call, and so it was the wrong call at the end of the day, and they overturned it.
Hi, sir. First of all, congratulations for the event. I will say my question in French. Vous êtes venu 3 fois en 3 ans en France. Il y a un énorme engouement pour le MMA en ce moment en France. Pensez-vous venir plus souvent, peut-être 2 ou 3 fois par an?
So you came here 3 times in 3 years, and it's a huge success each time. Do you think you'll be more in France next year? Maybe 2 or maybe twice or more?
We traditionally have come here every May. And you're right, this is our 3rd time, and every time has gotten better and better. If you remember the first time when we announced tickets on sale, COVID was still around, and we were told we could have 5,000 people by the government. By the time the fight week came, we had to cut it down to 1,000. That means we had to get 4,000 tickets back, refunds. It was just a crazy time, but we came here anyway. We did the fight, and it was really amazing because we had come from a location in the US where we're doing fights that had no audience at all. So to have 1,000 people here at the arena felt very loud, and they were very passionate fans. And we all know the history of martial arts here in France for such a long time. I mean, I'm talking 20, 30 years ago. It's and more. It's like you said, it's such a big history of martial arts in France. So we're happy to be here. We're happy to be back. We have a date booked next year, and one thing that we're considering and working on is the events that we're going to produce maybe next year, and more of a series of events, hopefully in Europe, and some more dates in France that will be like a challenger series, and we'll be looking for the next big star in France, because I believe that you saw the talent level here, and it's very good. They just need more fights, more reps, and just stay busy. We keep these guys busy, they're going to do very well on the worldwide circuit.
First of all, Mr. Coker, thank you for the great evening and the hospitality. As you can see, I talk with a little bit of a Dutch accent, and I was wondering, we saw 3 Dutch fighters. When will the event in Amsterdam happen?
I'll tell you, we had a date in Amsterdam, and we actually had the venue booked, and we got the city to give us a certificate, which was a very difficult thing to do. And then COVID hit, and so it went away. There was from the company standpoint, we had a merger with Viacom and CBS in the US. So we went through that, and we would love to come to Amsterdam sometime, maybe even in 24, but I think sooner than later, because so many great talented martial arts there. And when I think about Holland, I think about Ernesto Hoost, Peter Ards. I think of Overeem. I think about all the great fighters from Sammy Shields. I think about all the great fighters from that area, and I name mostly K1 kickboxers because that's when I was working in Japan. They were fighting all the time and winning all the time. So we would love to go there and continue the Bellator tradition and grow MMA in Holland.
One more question about the Bellator Grand Prix at the lightweight. Do you have someone you think has the highest chance of winning the tournament at the moment?
I mean, you saw the level of competition tonight, and we still have one more slot that we're going to announce probably next week, and that's the location and the date will be announced. The fighters that are fighting are already announced. It's going to be AJ McKee fighting Pitbull, and so that's going to be the final quarterfinals. So you're talking about super high caliber of athletes. This is honestly the greatest mixed martial arts tournament in the lightweight division. So, I don't know. It could be a toss up, but when you're Usman Nurmagomedov, you're training with Habib and you're training with Javier Mendez and you're training, and then you have AJ on the other side, that might be the matchup that ends up 1 and 2. So it'll be very interesting. But until the champ gets knocked off, he's the champ, and he's the champ for the reason. So to me, I'm not saying he's the favorite, but I think that he's definitely somebody that should be looked at seriously.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, Scott. Noé from Cover. Congratulations on a great event. I think one of the stakes of this night was to find if either Mousasi or Edwards was a credible contender to a very, very dominant champ. Do you think you find yourself a credible contender in Fabian Edwards for Johnny Eblen?
Absolutely, and I tell you, the thing that's difficult about him is his speed, and he's very elusive, and he can stand in the pocket and make you miss a lot. It's going to be a very interesting fight. I think it's going to be a tactical fight. Johnny's going to come. He's going to throw some bombs. He's going to try to continue to take him down, and it's going to be an interesting fight.
And I think it's fair to say that a lot of French people tuned in tonight because there were a lot of French fighters. What would you say to those French fans to get them interested in buying Bellator 297? What would you say to them?
I mean, listen, the French fighters proved where they're at right now, and they're getting better and better and better. And it's our job to get them more fights and more reps and more international experience. And that's something that we're committed to doing. So, we're looking forward to the next round of bringing the French fighters abroad or coming here and doing some more, like I said, challenger type fights. We can just keep these guys busy because I believe that's really all they need.
You mentioned challenger type fights. When you come back to Paris, would that be in big arenas like Accor, or would you like to do like smaller shows but more often maybe?
Are you talking about like a challenger series?
Yeah.
Usually those are in a little bit smaller venues, but I'm not saying they're made for TV shows, but smaller venues. But the idea and the goal really is to get these guys reps and just keep them going because they just need fights. That's it. Just keep these guys busy and they'll be just fine.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Congratulations again.
You guys announced last week or recently that Chris Cyborg had re-signed with Bellator. Obviously, it was a long process. The last fight was about a year ago with Bellator. What did it take to get that deal done?
You know what? It was really interesting. I don't want to tell you about the whole process, but I got a phone call from her and her manager, and they said, we have chosen to stay and we'd like to make a deal. So within an hour, we made a deal and inked it within the next 2 hours. So within a 3-hour period, we went from waiting to see what was going to happen with her right to match and, other offers coming from other leagues to her making a choice to stay with Bellator and then continue her fighting career. Because we've been together such a long time. Her first fight with us was in 2009. So, we've had a long relationship. So I think she just felt comfortable, and she saw that our commitment to that weight division is still strong. We just have Sarah McMahon just came up and fought and did well. And we still have Kat Zingano out there, Leah McCourt. We still have a lot of girls for her to fight.
Yeah.
And, Kayla's going to be a free agent next year. So let's see what happens.
I wanted to ask you about that real quick. Kayla said recently she'll be a free agent completely in December. How realistic is it that next time that, this time next year, you guys have Kayla and that fight with Cyborg finally gets done in Bellator?
I can tell you this, we're committed to discussing with every free agent out there, whether we're a right fit for someone or not. And if she does become a free agent, then we'll definitely have that conversation, because that's the business we're in. And her and Cyborg would be an amazing fight. But right now she fights somewhere else. Let's just see what happens.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay, thanks, guys.
All right, we'll be joined next by Fabian Edwards.